today we're going to be focused on setups. Yesterday we talked about the solving process a lot. We solved a lot of the equations and we worked through stuff on the calculator, all that kind of stuff. Not that we aren't going to solve any equations today, but I want to focus today on how we get the equations set up, because that's a big key part of it. And so I want to get through as many examples set up as possible and focus less on solving them. So I will solve on these first two, and then those are the only ones today I'm going to solve. And then we're going to just drill some setups. All right. So let me start you off with solving for x on this one. So the question is going to be, if we're trying to solve for x, which one do I want to use? If you were there before, I reset the question. And so I want to know if we're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent to solve for this. If you think we're going to use sine, you're going to answer A. If you think we're going to use cosine, we're going to answer B. If you think we're going to use tangent, we're going to answer C. Never had that problem with this website. Usually it's really good about loading. Okay. Try it on your phone and see if it works better on your phone, like the connection. Because you're just going to be tapping answer choices, so it should work on your phone. Yeah, same thing. Try it on your phone and see if it. Okay. I'll come and check your. I'll come and check your work on each one as we go, and see how you're doing. Any other questions or technology issues here? Yes. Yeah. I can see. That's where you're going to go. Here's my 64. Across from the 64 is the one that I'm given. So that is my opposite. And then the one I'm trying to solve for, which is x, is my adjacent. Right? That's the leg that's touching my angle. So my hypotenuse, y, I'm not trying to solve for it. I don't care about it right now. I just care about opposite and adjacent. So which one's in charge of opposite and adjacent? It's tangent. Tangent of my angle, which is 64, equals opposite over adjacent. Our opposite here is 17. Adjacent here is x. So remember, for a tangent, opposite has to go on top, adjacent has to go on the bottom. Otherwise, it's not tangent. And now, I'm going to do this quicker than yesterday. We're going to solve by getting rid of our fraction. Multiply by whatever's on the bottom. So what's on the bottom here is x. So we're going to multiply by x to get rid of the fraction over here, and we just have 17. Then on the left side, we have x times the tangent of 64. And so we're going to divide by the tangent of 64 on both sides. And remember, we can do that because tangent of 64, it's a big long decimal, but it's just a number. So I'm trying to solve x times a number. We can do that by dividing. So then we're going to go to the calculator and get the rounded answer there. Round up to 8.3. Any questions on that solving process? Again, there's only a couple of these today that we're going to go through how to solve. So if you have questions on solving, ask them now. Let's try the next one. Again, let's start with solving for x. If I want to solve for x, I'm resetting the question. If I want to solve for x, A for sine, B for cosine, C for tangent, which one are we going to use? So the question should be reset on your devices there for you to answer. I'll wait for some more answers to come in. About 15 more seconds. Get your answers in. 10. It's between two choices, but one of them's pulling out ahead. And it's the right one. What do I know? What am I given? I'm given the hypotenuse. I know the hypotenuse is 12. What am I trying to solve for? I'm trying to solve for the adjacent. Right, that's touching the 47. I don't care about opposite right now because I'm not solving for y, I'm solving for x. So opposite's over here, but I don't care about it. I care about hypotenuse because it's what I'm given, and I care about adjacent because it's what I'm trying to solve for. So I want to know about adjacent and hypotenuse. Which one can tell me about adjacent and hypotenuse? It's cosine of the angle equals adjacent goes on top, hypotenuse goes on the bottom. So we're going to solve. Get rid of the fraction by multiplying by what's on the bottom. So what's on the bottom here? It's 12. So we're going to multiply by 12 on both sides to get rid of my fraction. And good news, that just leaves x by itself, so we have solved for it. 12 cosine of 47. So on the calculator, 12 cosine of 47. 12 cosine of 47. Careful here. This is multiplying now. We're not dividing, so you shouldn't put a dividing symbol in there. Or if it's dividing, you shouldn't forget about the dividing symbol. Make sure you know when you're dividing, when you're not. 8.18, so it should be 8.2. If we're rounding to one decimal place. Questions there? All right. Now let's solve for y. So now I care about y. Now I don't care about x because I'm already solved for it. So resetting the question, go ahead and lock in which one we're going to use. I'll give you about 10 seconds because this one should go quick. Sine put A, cosine put B, tangent put C. See if you can write the fraction on the other side. Across from the 47, so that's my opposite. I know my hypotenuse, I want my opposite. Which one's opposite in hypotenuse? It's sine. Opposite, which is y, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. Get rid of your fraction by multiplying by what's on the bottom. So on the bottom this time is 12. And good news, y is already solved for. So we don't need another step after this like we did over here. And if I put that in my calculator, it's going to round to about 8.8. So a couple things you can see to double check your work and double check your answers here. First off, using the fact that that the angles in a triangle add to 180, here's 90 here, here's 47 here, that leaves 43 to be here, so that the angles add to 180. So remember that the bigger the angle, the longer the side is across from it. So the hypotenuse should be my longest side. So one thing you should check for is, if 12 is my hypotenuse, the rest of my answers better not be bigger than 12 because that's supposed to be my longest side. We should also know that across from the bigger angles are the longer sides. So if you're double checking your process here, the one across from the 47 should be a longer side than the one across from the 43. In other words, y should be bigger than x. But that's not too much bigger than, 47 is not too much bigger than 43, so it shouldn't be a ton bigger than x. But y should be a little bit bigger than x, and that's what we have. And none of them are bigger than 12. So any questions? Because from here on out, we're just going to do setups. I'm not going to solve the rest of them. We're just going to focus on the setups so we can get through more problems. So before I do that, are there any questions or anything that's confusing about the solving, the getting rid of the fraction, putting it in the calculator? Anyone having trouble with any of that? Ready to go on? Good to go? Okay. Next ones. I'm just going to give you one of them to solve for here. Let's solve for x. So if I wanted to solve for x, resetting the question for you, label your parts. Are we going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? Vote now on your devices. All right, we're getting better. I don't care about y, so I don't care about my hypotenuse. Right now what I care about is across from my 50, opposite, because that's what I'm given. And what am I trying to solve for? I'm trying to solve for my adjacent. So which one deals with opposite and adjacent? It's tangent. So our setup is going to be tangent of my angle is 50 equals, remember, opposite goes on top, adjacent goes on the bottom. So opposite is 13 over adjacent is x. Let's do another one. This one I want to solve for s. Resetting the question. A for sine, B for cosine, C for tangent. I'm giving you less time this time. Well, what do we know? What are we trying to find? We know across from the 36, that's my opposite. What are we trying to solve for? That's going to be s, my hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle. So no opposite, trying to find hypotenuse. Which one deals with opposite and hypotenuse? It's sine. Of my angle is 36 equals opposite on top, hypotenuse on the bottom. Questions on that one? So there are two kind of parts to this. One is actually labeling the triangle with which one's your opposite, which one's your adjacent, which one's your hypotenuse. And then the other part is making sure that we know which part of this goes where. So any part of that that we need clarification or questions or anything else on. All set to go on? All right. Last one. I want you to solve for y. And this time, I still want you to answer on here, which one's sine, which one's cosine, which one's tangent. But I also want you to see if you can get your setup written down on your paper before I do, so that you can check your answer and make sure you set it up correctly. If you don't have it, if my answer is surprising you and you're not sure why it is, then please be asking. That's why we're going through these. I know adjacent. So like it's touching my angle. I'm trying to solve for the hypotenuse across from my right angle. So I know adjacent. I want hypotenuse. Which one's in charge of adjacent and hypotenuse? It's cosine. Cosine of my angle equals adjacent is 36 over the hypotenuse is y. We don't care about my opposite right now because we're not trying to solve for x right now. We're trying to solve for y. Okay. Questions there? All right. Let's try a couple more. You can put your Chromebooks away because we're going to try these rapid fire even quicker here. We're going to do them all at once. So these last three, I'm going to underline which one I want you to solve for here. Yeah. Let's write down your setups. I'll give you about a minute. You should be able to do all three of these in a minute. Thirty seconds. Remember, if you were to solve these, your first step would be to multiply by what's on the bottom and get rid of the fraction. Right now, I'm just worried about setups, though. We'll solve a couple more of them tomorrow, just so that you can see a couple more solved. Okay, I think we're either ready or almost ready. Here come the answers.